Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We welcome you with affection. Hope you're well, hope you're safe, hope you're happy in these unusual times, unprecedented times on the earth. It will take time for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement to become as influential as it can be, or will be, according to the Shastra. In the meantime, Prabhupada told us, if our preaching is successful, there will be polarization of the forces of good and evil. And those forces of good and evil are now polarizing as much as they have been in a worldwide sense. There have always been wars and conflicts and social upheaval and economic strife and all those things. It's the nature of the material world, especially in this Kali Yuga. But now it's being done on a global scale in an unprecedented way, because everything is interconnected by the economic systems and basically the banking systems and the way things are moved from one place to another and paid for, etc., etc. Also the wave of discrimination, inequality that periodically rises up in human society to cause the mass of people to just say no to the leaders, and it's a lesson that will never be learned, because these are the patterns, these are the karmic reactions in the modes of material nature of the conditioned souls, all trying to compete to become God. So let's hear about God and bring us all together. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wrote this, or spoke this very poetic glorification of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. In due course, Mahapralaya, the devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, we've reached the 14th chapter of the Madhya-lila of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. This is called the performance of the Vrndavana pastimes. Dressing himself as a Vaishnava, Maharaj Prataparudra entered the garden at Balagandi alone and began reciting verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. He then took the opportunity to massage the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord, in his ecstatic love for Krishna, immediately embraced the king and thus bestowed mercy upon him. When there was an offering of prasadam in the garden, Lord Chaitanya also partook of it. After this, When Lord Jagannath's Rath car stopped moving, King Prataparudra called for many elephants to pull it. But when they were unsuccessful, seeing this, Lord Chaitanya began to push the car from behind with his head, and the car began moving. Then the devotees began pulling the car with ropes. Near the Gundicha temple is a place known as Aitota. This place was fixed up for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to rest in. When Lord Jagannath was seated at Sundarachala, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw it as Vrndavana. He performed sporting pastimes in the water of the lake known as Indradyumna. For 9 continuous days during Rath Yatra, the Lord remained at Sundarachala, and on the 5th day, he and Swarup Damodar observed the pastimes of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. During that time, there was much talk about the pastimes of the gopis. When the Rath was again being drawn and the chanting resumed, the two devotees from Kulinagram, Ramananda Basu and Satyaraj Khan, were requested to bring silk ropes every year to the Rath Yatra ceremony. Text 1. Accompanied by his personal devotees, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the festival known as Lakshmi Vijayotsav. There he discussed the super excellent love of the gopis. Just by hearing about them, he became very pleased and danced in great ecstatic love for the Lord. Text 2. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, known as Gaurachandra. All glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Advaita Acharya, who is so exalted. Text 3. All glories to all the devotees, headed by Srivas Thakur. All glories to the readers who have taken Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as their life and soul. I'll repeat this again. All glories to all the devotees headed by Srivas Thakur. All glories to the readers who have taken Sri Caitanya-caritämrta Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as their life and soul. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was resting in ecstatic love, Maharaj Prataparudra entered the garden. Following Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's instructions, the king had given up his royal dress. He now entered the garden in the dress of a Vaishnava. Purport. Sometimes members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, especially in the Western countries, find it difficult to approach people to distribute books because people are unfamiliar with the traditional saffron robes of the devotees. The devotees have therefore inquired whether they can wear European and American dress before the general public. From the instructions given to King Prataparudra by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, we can understand that we may change our dress in any way to facilitate our service. When our members change their dress to meet the public or to introduce our books, they are not breaking the devotional principles. The real principle is to spread the Krishna consciousness movement, and if one has to change into regular Western dress for this purpose, there should be no objection. Text 6. Maharaj Prataparudra was so humble that with folded hands he first took permission from all the devotees. Then with great courage he fell down and touched the lotus feet of the Lord. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lay on the raised platform with his eyes closed in ecstatic love and emotion, the king very expertly began to massage his legs. the king began to recite verses about the Rasa-lila from Srimad Bhagavatam. He recited the chapter beginning with the words, Jayati te dikam. Purport. These verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 31, constitute what is known as the Gopi Gita. Text 9. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard these verses, he was pleased beyond limits. And he said again and again, go on reciting, go on reciting. As soon as the king recited the verse beginning with the words, Caitanya-caritämrta, the Lord arose in ecstatic love and embraced him. Upon hearing the verse recited by the king, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, You have given me invaluable gems, but I have nothing to give you in return. Therefore, I am simply embracing you. Text 12. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to recite the same verse again and again. Both the king and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were trembling, and tears were flowing from their eyes. 13. Caitanya-caritämrtam tapta jivanam kavibir iditam kalmashapaham Shravana mangalam Srimad Atatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Burida Janaha. My Lord, the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those who are always aggrieved in this material world. These narrations are transmitted by exalted personalities, and they eradicate all sinful reactions. Whoever hears these narrations attains all good fortune. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Those who spread the message of Godhead are certainly the most munificent welfare workers. Purport. This verse is Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31, 9. Text 14. After reciting this verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately embraced the king and cried, You are the most munificent. You are the most munificent. At this point, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not know who the king was. 15. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy was aroused because of the king's previous servant. Therefore, without even asking who he was, the Lord immediately bestowed his mercy upon him. Text 16. How powerful is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu! Without even inquiring about the king, the Lord made everything successful. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is so powerful that it acts automatically. If a person renders loving service to Krishna, it never goes in vain. It is recorded in a spiritual account, and in due time it will fructify. This is confirmed by the Bhagavad Gita 2:40. Neha bhikramanashosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayad. In this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has particularly bestowed upon all fallen souls in this age the most potent method of devotional service, Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy name. And whoever takes to it through the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is immediately elevated to the transcendental position. As Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5, 32 recommends, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayayar Yajanti Hi Sumeda Saha. A student of Krishna consciousness must receive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, then his devotional service will quickly succeed. This was the case with King Prataparudra. One has to be noticed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and a little service with sincere efforts will convince the Lord that one is a proper candidate for returning home, back to Godhead. At first, Maharaj Prataparudra did not have a chance to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But when the Lord saw that the king was serving Lord Jagannath as a menial sweeper, the Lord's mercy upon the king became a solid fact. When Maharaj Prataparudra, in the dress of a Vaishnava, was serving the Lord did not even inquire who he was. Rather, he had compassion upon him and embraced him. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wants to point out that nothing could compare to the Lord's mercy toward Maharaj Prataparudra. Therefore he uses the word deka, just see, and Caitanya-caritämrta Mahabala, how powerful is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is also confirmed by Prabodhananda Saraswati, Yat Karunya Kataksha Vaibhavatam. Caitanya-caritämrta 5. Yat Karunya Kataksha Vaibhavatam. Even a little of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy serves as a great asset for spiritual advancement. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement must be spread through the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Rupa Goswami experienced the mercy and magnanimity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvije Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, who is more magnanimous than any other avatar, even Krishna himself, because he is bestowing freely what no one else has ever given, pure love for Krishna. Srila Lochan Das Thakur is also sung, Parama Karuna Pahundui Jana Nitai Gora Chandra. The two brothers, Nitai and Gora, are so kind that no one can compare to them. Similarly, Srila Narottam Das Thakur is sung, Brajendra Nandana Ye Shachi Sutta Hoila Se Balarama Haila Nitai Dina Hina Yatachila Harinami Udarila Tara Sakshi Jagai Madhai. Just to deliver all the sinful persons of this age by propagating the chanting of the holy name, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram have advented as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Jagai and Madhai are evidence of their success. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's special mission is the deliverance of all fallen souls in Kali Yuga. Devotees of Krishna must persistently seek the favor and mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to become fit to return back home, back to Godhead. I'll repeat that last sentence if you don't mind. Okay? Okay. Devotees of Krishna must persistently seek the favor and mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to become fit to return home, back to Godhead. Text 17. Finally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Who are you? You have done so much for me. All of a sudden, you have come here and made me drink the nectar of the pastimes of Lord Krishna. 18. The king replied, My lord, I am the most obedient servant of your servants. It is my ambition that you will accept me as the servant of your servants. Purport. The greatest achievement for a devotee is to become a servant of the servants of the Lord. Actually, no one should desire to become a direct servant, to become the direct servant of the Lord. That is not a very good idea. When Prahlad Maharaj was offered a benediction by Nrsingadev, Prahlad rejected all kinds of material benedictions, but he prayed to become the servant of the servants of the Lord. When Dhruva Maharaj was offered a benediction by Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, Dhruva could have asked for unlimited material opulence, but he simply asked for the benediction of becoming the servant of the servants of the Lord. Kolavecha Sridhar was a very poor man, but when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to give him a benediction, he also prayed to the Lord to be allowed to remain a servant of the servants of the Lord. The conclusion is that being the servant of the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest benediction one can desire. One more time. The conclusion is that being the servant of the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest benediction one can desire. Text 19. At that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu displayed some of his divine opulences to the king, and he forbade him to disclose this to anyone. 20. Although within his heart, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew everything that had happened, externally he did not disclose it. Nor did he disclose what he knew, nor did he disclose that he knew he was talking with King Prataparudra. Text 21. Seeing the Lord's special mercy upon King Prataparudra, the devotees praised the king's good fortune, and their minds became open and blissful. And their minds became open and blissful. Closed mind, no bliss. Open mind, full bliss. Purport. This is a characteristic of a pure Vaishnava. He is never envious if another devotee receives the mercy and strength of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A pure Vaishnava is very happy to see a person elevated in devotional service. Unfortunately, there are many so-called Vaishnavas who become envious to see someone actually recognized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is a fact that no one can preach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message without receiving the special mercy of the Lord. This is known to every Vaishnava. Yet there are some envious people who cannot tolerate the expansion of this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. They find fault with the preacher who has spread this movement and do not praise him for the excellent service he has rendered in fulfilling Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. That's Prabhupada speaking of himself. Special mercy. His ecstasies. These are Prabhupada's ecstasies, he told us. Just like Lord Chaitanya became so much in ecstasy, he couldn't see who, of course he knew, but apparently he couldn't see who Maharaj Prataparudra was, and therefore he bestowed his mercy upon him. So similarly, the preachers who were spreading this movement, Srila Prabhupada, the supreme preacher, is fit to be praised. Text 22. Submissively offering prayers to the devotees with folded hands and offering obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the king went outside. After this, Vaninath Roy brought all kinds of prasadam, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted lunch with the devotees. The king also sent a large quantity of prasadam through Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, and Vaninath Roy. The prasadam sent by the king had been offered at the Balagandi festival and included uncooked milk products and fruits. It was all of the finest quality, and there was no end to the variety. There were curd, fruit juice, coconut, mango, dried coconut, jackfruit, various kinds of bananas, and palm fruit seeds. Purport. This is the first list of prasadam offered to Lord Jagannath. 27. There were also oranges, grapefruit, tangerines, almonds, dried fruit, raisins, and dates. There were hundreds of different types of sweetmeats, like Manohara Ladu, sweets like Amrita Gutika, and various types of condensed milk. There were also papayas and saraswati, a type of orange, and also crushed squash. There were also regular cream, fried cream, and a type of puri made with cream. Text 30. There were also the sweets known as Haribalaba, and sweets made of senoti flowers, karpura flowers, and malati flowers. They were pomegranates, sweets made with black pepper, sweets made with fused sugar, and amriti jilipi. There were lotus flower sugar, a kind of bread made from urad dal, crispy sweetmeats, sugar candy, fried rice sweets, sesame seed sweets, and cookies made from sesame seeds. There were sugar candy sweetmeats formed into the shape of orange, lemon, and mango trees. Whoa! And arranged with fruits, flowers, and leaves. 33. There were yogurt, milk, butter, buttermilk, fruit juice, a preparation made of fried yogurt, and sugar candy, and salty mung dal sprouts with shredded ginger. There were also various types of pickles, lemon pickle, berry pickle, and so on. Indeed, I am not able to describe the variety of food offered to Lord Jagannath. Purport. In verses 26 through 34, the author describes the various foods offered to Lord Jagannath. He has described them as far as possible, but he finally admits his inability to describe them completely. Text 35. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw half the garden filled with a variety of prasadam, he was very satisfied. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was fully satisfied just to see how Lord Jagannath accepted all the food. Purport. Following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a Vaishnava should be fully satisfied simply to see a variety of food offered to the deity of Jagannath or Radha, Krishna. A Vaishnava should not hunger for a variety of food for his own sake. Rather, his satisfaction is in seeing various foods being offered to the deity. In his Gurvastaka, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasado Swadana Triptan Haribhakta Sangan Kritveva Triptim Bhajatak Sadeva Bandesh Guru Shri Chadanada Vindam. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzed as that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasadam, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master's duty is to engage his disciples in preparing varieties of nice foods to offer the deity. After being offered, this food is distributed as prasadam to the devotees. These activities satisfy the spiritual master, although he himself does not eat or require such a variety of prasadam. By seeing to the offering and distribution of prasadam, he himself is encouraged in devotional service. Text 37. There then arrived 5 or 7 loads of plates made of the leaves of the Caitaki tree. Each man was supplied 10 of these plates. And in this way, the leaf dishes were distributed. 10 leaf plates for each person. Text 38. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood the labor of all the kirtan chanters. Therefore, he was very eager to feed them sumptuously. 39. All the devotees sat down in lines, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally began to distribute the prasadam. But the devotees would not accept the prasadam until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took it. Swarup Damodar informed the Lord of this. Swarup Damodar said, "My Lord, please sit down. No one will eat until you do." At that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down with his personal associates and had every one of them fed very sumptuously until they were filled to the necks. 43. After finishing, the Lord washed his mouth and sat down. There was so much extra prasadam that it was distributed to thousands. Following the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Govinda, his personal servant, called for all the poor beggars who were unhappy due to their poverty and fed them sumptuously. Text 45. Observing the beggars eating prasadam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted Haribol and instructed them to chant the holy name. Purport. In a song, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur chants, Miche Mayara Vashe, Hachcha Beshe, Kachcha Habu Dubu Bai, Jiv Krishna Das, E Vishwas, Karle Tar Ar Nukanai. Dukanai. O people, why are you being captivated by the waves of the ocean of nations? If you would immediately accept Lord Sri Krishna as your eternal master, there would be no chance of being carried away by the waves of illusion. Then all your sufferings would stop. Krishna conducts the material world under the 3 modes of material nature, and consequently, there are 3 platforms of life, higher, middle, and lower. On whatever platform one may be situated, one is tossed by the waves of material nature. Someone may be rich, someone may be middle class, and someone may be a poor beggar. It doesn't matter. As long as one is under the spell of the 3 modes of material nature, he must continue to experience these divisions. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised the beggars to chant Haribol while taking prasadam. Chanting means accepting oneself as the eternal servant of Krishna. This is the only solution regardless of social position, everyone is suffering under the spell of Maya. Therefore, the best course is to learn how to get out of the clutches of Maya. How to do so is stated by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayo vyabhicharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatijaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. One can overcome the spell of Maya and attain the transcendental platform by agreeing to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Devotional service begins with Shravanam, Kirtanam. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised the beggars to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for elevation to the transcendental position. On the transcendental platform, there is no distinction between the rich, the middle class, and the poor. Text 46. As soon as the beggars chanted the holy name, Haribol, they were immediately absorbed in ecstatic love of Godhead. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed wonderful pastimes. Purport. To feel the emotion of ecstatic love of God is to be on the transcendental platform. If one can keep himself in that transcendental position, he will surely return home back to Godhead. In the spiritual world, there are no higher, middle, or lower classes. This is confirmed in the Ishupanishad 7. Jasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bud ajanataha tatrako mohaka shoka ekatvam anupashyataha. Tatrako mohaka shoka ekatvam anupashyataha. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? May I repeat that? You wouldn't mind? Oh, all right. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? Text 47. Outside the garden, when it was time to pull Jagannath's car, all the workers called Godas tried to pull it, but it would not move forward. When the Godas saw that they could not budge the car, they abandoned the attempt. When the king arrived in great anxiety, and he was accompanied by his officers and friends. The king arranged for big wrestlers to try to pull the car, and even the king himself joined in, but the car could not be moved. Becoming even more anxious to move the car, the king had very strong elephants brought forth and harnessed to it. The strong elephants pulled with all their strength, but still the car remained at a standstill, not budging an inch. 52. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this news, he went there with his personal associates. They then stood there and watched the elephants try to pull the car. 53. The elephants, being beaten by the elephant goad, were crying, but still the car would not move. The assembled people cried out, "Alas!" 54. At that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu let all the elephants go free and placed the car's ropes in the hands of his own men. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to the back of the car and began to push with his head. It was then that the car began to move and roll along, making a rattling sound. Indeed, the car began to move automatically, and the devotees simply carried the ropes in their hands. Since it was moving effortlessly, they did not need to pull it. Text 57. When the car moved forward, everyone began to chant with great pleasure, all glories, and all glories to Lord Jagannath. No one could hear anything else. In a moment the car reached the door of the Gundicha temple. Upon seeing the uncommon strength of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the people were struck with wonder. The crowd made a tumultuous vibration, chanting Jai Gaurachandra, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Then the people began to chant, "Wonderful, wonderful." Seeing the greatness of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prataparudra Maharaj and his ministers and friends were so moved by ecstatic love that the hair on their bodies stood on end. All these servants of Lord Jagannath then took him down from the car, and the Lord went to sit on his throne. Subhadra and Balaram also sat on their respective thrones. There followed the bathing of Lord Jagannath, and finally the offering of food. Text 53. When Lord Jagannath, Lord Balaram and Subhadra sat on their respective thrones, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees began to perform Sankirtan with great pleasure, chanting and dancing in the yard of the temple. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting and dancing, he was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and all the people who saw him were also flooded in the ocean of love of Godhead. In the evening, after finishing his dancing in the yard of the Gundicha temple, the Lord observed the arati ceremony. Thereafter, he went to a place called Aitota and took rest for the night. Text 66. For 9 days, 9 chief devotees, headed by Advaita Acharya, got an opportunity to invite Lord to their home. Text 67. During the 4 months of the rainy season, the remaining devotees extended invitations to the Lord for 1 day each. In this way they shared invitations. For the 4-month period, all the daily invitations were shared among the important devotees. The rest of the devotees did not get an opportunity to extend an invitation to the Lord. Since they could not get one each day, 2 or 3 devotees combined to extend an invitation. These are the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's acceptance of invitations. After taking his bath early in the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go see Lord Jagannath in the temple. Then he would perform Sankirtan with his devotees. 71. By chanting and dancing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu induced Advaita Acharya to dance. Sometimes he induced Nityananda Prabhu, Haridas Thakur, and Achyutananda to dance. Sometimes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged Vakreshwar, and other devotees in chanting and dancing. 3 times daily, morning, noon, and evening, he would perform Sankirtan in the yard of the Gundicha temple. 73. At this time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt that Lord Krishna had returned to Vrindavan. Thinking this, his feelings of separation from Krishna subsided. Text 74. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always thinking of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and he remained personally merged in this consciousness. There were many gardens near the Gundicha temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees used to perform the pastimes of Vrindavan in each of them. In the lake named Indradyumna, he sported in the water. The Lord personally splashed all the devotees with water, and the devotees surrounding him on all sides also splashed the Lord. While in the water, they sometimes formed one circle and sometimes many circles. And while in the water, they used to play cymbals and imitate the croaking of frogs. Sometimes 2 would pair off to fight in the water. One would emerge victorious and the other defeated, and the Lord would watch all this fun. The first sporting took place between Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, who threw water upon each other. Advaita Acharya was defeated, and he later began to rebuke Nityananda Prabhu, calling him ill names. Surup Damodar and Vidyanidhi also threw water upon each other, and Murari Gupta and Vasudev Datta also sported in that way. Another duel took place between Srivas Thakur and Gadadhar Pandit, and yet another between Raghava Pandit and Vakreshwar Pandit. Thus they all engaged in throwing water. Indeed, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya engaged in water sports with Sri Ramananda Roy, and they both lost their gravity and became like children. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the exuberance of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, he smiled and spoke to Gopinathacharya. Tell the Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy to stop their childish play, because they are both learned scholars and very grave and great personalities. Gopinathacharya replied, I believe that one drop of the ocean of your great mercy has swelled up upon them. A drop from the ocean of your mercy can drown great mountains like Sumeru and Mandara. Since these 2 gentlemen are little hills by comparison, it is no wonder that they are being drowned in the ocean of your mercy. Logic is like a dry oil cake from which all the oil has been extracted. The Bhattacharya passed his life in eating such dry cakes, but now you have made him drink the nectar of transcendental pastimes. It is certainly your great mercy upon him. After Gopinathacharya finished talking, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled and, calling for Advaita Acharya, made him act like the Sheshanaga bed. Lying down on Advaita Prabhu, who was floating in the water, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrated the pastime of Sheshashayi Vishnu. Text 90. Manifesting his personal potency, Advaita Acharya floated about on the water, carrying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After sporting in the water for some time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to his place at Aitota, accompanied by his devotees. So we'll stop here. Hare Krishna. We'll start up again tomorrow with the riding another wave of the ecstatic pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his eternal associates in Jagannath Puri. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Okay, anybody have some reflections? We haven't had many reflections over these last days when the ecstasy has gotten very thick. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in ecstatic love of Godhead stunned the devotees.
Rati Manjari says, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Rati's swimming in the ocean here. She usually has a lot of things to say, but she's stunned.
And from Saloni Sachi Sundari. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine service. All glories to the Vaishnavas who are listening to the nectar of CC.
Yes. She's echoing the well-wishing of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, asking for the blessings of the readers, the hearers of Caitanya-caritämrta. Even we can't perceive it. We're becoming conduits by continually, with persistence, I read Srila Prabhupada said, with persistence, if we go on hearing, we will get the attention of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That was the point that stuck out of my mind of this reading today. If we persistently go on hearing the pastimes of the Lord, then they will manifest their mercy to us, and we will become eligible to stay fixed. And once you're fixed, mam chayo bibicharina bhakti yogena sevate, in the transcendental service of the Lord, without deviating for a moment, then we will immediately become eligible to go back to God at Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Hare Krishna. Sorry.
From Noel Craver.
Noel Craver
Says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for your service and reading this nectar to us each day.
It's my pleasure, really, honestly.
And the Gopakanya says, Jai Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribo Gopakanya.
Brian Phillips says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribo Bhakta Brian, Hare Krishna.
And some comments from Krishna Premavati Devi Dasi.
Krishna Premavati Devi Dasi.
Devotees of Krishna must persistently seek the favor and mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to become fit to return home back to Godhead.
That's it. Persistently
I think it's a question after that, because it says by question mark, question mark, question mark.
By persistently hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, by persistently rendering service to the Lord, by persistently enjoying, seeing the devotees offering prasadam to the Lord, by persistently doing all the things that we hear about in these pastimes. That's what it means. That's what these pastimes mean. No?
She also commented later on, she said Krishna consciousness is singing, dancing, and relishing Krishna prasadam.
Yes.
To be free from illusion and anxiety, we must see all as Atma, part and parcel of Krishna.
Yad yatva na punar moham, evam yasyasi pandava, yena bhutanya sheshani drakshas manyato mayi. This is Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is telling Arjuna, when you've received this knowledge from self-realized souls, then you will never again fall into illusion, because you will see for yourself that all living beings are but a part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. If you actually love Krishna, you will automatically love everyone else, because they belong to Krishna, and they're very dear to Krishna. Persistently practice acting like that, even if you haven't fully realized it. If you persistently act like that, without pretension, without ulterior motives, to get something for yourself, just for the pleasure of the Lord and the Lord's devotees, then you will get these things, these beautiful gems, golden nuggets, huge pearls created in the ocean of transcendental bliss. Hare Krishna.
We must see all as Atma, part and parcel of Krishna, but to enter Lord Chaitanya's pastimes makes us blissful. Hari Hari Bol.
Yeah, well, you can't go into Krishna's pastimes unless you take that step first. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of Madhya-lila prayers. He doesn't try to go and be with the Lord. He prays to be the servant of the servants of the Lord. That's the way. You can't approach Krishna directly. You have to go through the mercy of the devotees of the Lord. Then you receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're so conditioned in this material world to try to get things for ourselves. It's very hard to break that habit, second nature habit. Millions of births trying to do just that. So the only thing that's strong enough to break that chain, that knot that it's been tied again and again and again and again around the soul, is transcendental knowledge of Krishna and the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. They go together. If you chant sincerely, Prabhupada said, sincerely means asking for service. Then you'll get service to the devotees, and you'll be please the Lord more than you can imagine. Hare Krishna.
Says, I joined late due to internet problems, but please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj, and thank you for the reading.
Who is this?
This is Krishna Premavati.
Oh, Haribol.
And thank you.
Well, you can listen to it later. That's the joy of the YouTube channel.
She says, thank you for the reading. It is nice to hear you read. Compliments my readings. Thank you so much for in-depth explanation. It resonates.
Hare Krishna.
From Jai Shri Devi Dasi.
Jai Shri Hare Krishna.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the beautiful Bhaktivedanta purports. Thanks again and again for reading out the sweet nectar of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya every day. Your servant, Jai Shri Devi
Hare
Dasi.
Krishna. By the mercy of you and all the Vaishnavas. One's life should, as we get older and finally enter into old age, now I'm almost halfway through 70, the 70s, our energy should concentrate, on these things. It's natural. Relish them ourselves and give them to others. This is the real taste. And this will solve, as we heard that one purport tonight, where Prabhupada was saying that this is the solution for all the problems, social, economic, etc., that plague us as individuals and as societies.
Comment from Rati Manjari.
Haribol Rati?
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. There were quite a few reflections yesterday which were not addressed.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's what you're looking for. Abaya's over there with a sheepish grin on his face, scrolling through his yesterday's comments.
I didn't see any of these yesterday.
He's not seeing any. Are you making them up just to...
No, I mean, I see them now, but I didn't see them yesterday at all.
Oh.
Some of these.
So were they from Rati?
One of them was. I can read that. So yesterday she wrote...
Can you remember which ones were not read out? Can Rati tell us which ones were not read out? We don't want anybody to feel left out. That's a fact. Not so easy to scroll through the whole thing and find out the ones that were left out. That's not so easy to do. Is it?
I think I can figure out through them.
Okay, go ahead.
So from Rati Manjari, she said yesterday, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for taking us on this amazing transcendental journey. Our good fortune is indeed inconceivable. I was wondering about the identity of King Prataparudra in Lord Krishna's pastimes, and I looked it up. I was happy to read that he is a combination of King Indradyumna and Lord Indra. Very transcendental and exciting how the pastimes of Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya are intertwining. Would you like to comment on this?
It's not that they're intertwining, Rati. They're the same. It's not that one pastime is intertwining the others. They're actually the same pastimes. It's just that these personalities are entering into different forms in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. But the pastimes of Krishna and the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are actually the same. All of them. Every single one of them. has its equal counterpart in the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sometimes they may look completely different, but that's what the commentaries of our previous acharyas, bring out. They bring out these kinds of things. Like there was one Shuklambar brahmachari, and somehow or other Lord Chaitanya tried to grab his prasadam or the rice or something like that. And it's the same as Sudama Brahman. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna taking the rice from Sudama Brahma before he offered it to him. Like that, all the pastimes have equivalents.
From Julian Cartwright?
Julian Cartwright, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, today is perfect because I tuned in. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Well, if we do it persistently every day, then miracles happen.
And from Yadutama Das,
Mm-hmm.
he says, Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. There was a moment at the beginning of the reading that said Maharaj Prataparudra got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. But it seems like the real mercy was everything leading up to that point.
Well, it's all mercy, but when Lord Chaitanya embraces you, that's the culmination of the mercy. Remember Lord Chaitanya said he wouldn't touch a king because he would become a laughing stock. Of course, in our degraded society, they don't even know about these things, what a sannyasi should do or what they shouldn't do. But in a culture where people are more or less, educated and trained their whole lives, then if a person takes sannyas, they'd watch very carefully what he does. So when Lord Chaitanya refused, in a way it was mercy, but when he actually embraced the Lord and accepted the king's prayers and then embraced him and gave the king ecstatic symptoms, that's the culmination of the mercy. Of course, there's never any end to it. We shouldn't think, okay, now that's it. He's got the mercy, so now we can move on to something else. No, that mercy is eternal. Once we enter into relish, then we relish, the relish stays with us all day, whatever we're doing. Stays with us. Our happiness becomes not something that comes and goes. That's why the word persistent is used. In India, they go to these 7-day saptahas, and they read out intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna from the 10th canto, and everyone, it looks like they're in ecstasy, but then they go back to their homes and nothing changes. But real mercy means the hearts melt and one's consciousness changes permanently. So even though it may be true that everything leading up to that point was also mercy, it's also the culmination of the mercy. The embracing of Maharaj Prataparudra by Lord Chaitanya, when before he refused to even look at him, what to speak of touch him. Hare Krishna.
From Braj Balaba.
Hey Braj.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj. I feel so distant from Krishna, and now these pastimes make me think that I am so far away. Does hearing and chanting change all of this?
Well, as you advance, because we're in the material world, we feel, what the material world is forgetfulness of Krishna. So when we remember Krishna and feel separation from Krishna, that's how we become eligible to live in the spiritual world. So even if you're feeling separated from Krishna, if you continue to serve in that mood, then you will taste nectar that is the same as being in the spiritual world. Even if you may not be able to feel it fully, as long as you're in the material body, you can't feel everything because we're still in a material body. But the perfectional stage will be able to taste the nectar of devotional service even while we're in the material body. There's that verse in the Gita that says, regardless of where we are today, if we perform devotional service with intensity, tivrina yogina. Tivrina means with intense endeavor, with intensity, concentrated. When a focus of our attention is in pleasing Krishna, no matter what we do, even the little things we do, putting on our tilak, taking a bath, preparing for, reading the Bhagavatam, cleaning the altar, cooking, distributing the prasad. Any little thing you do genuinely for the pleasure of the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invokes the mercy of the Lord. And you taste happiness that is different than any other happiness you've ever felt in your life. And that feeling is unification or oneness with Krishna, an agreement. It's meant to make us hanker and meant to give us feelings of separation. Nothing wrong with that. Hare Krishna.
And from yesterday, there was a question from Doyle Nitai. He said, Dear Srila Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisance, all glories. Thank you for taking us with you. May I ask how to correctly understand that Srimati Subhadra is referred to as the goddess of fortune? Thank you, your servant, Doyle Nitai Das.
Because she's the female energy, the internal energy of the Lord is an expansion of all of them are expansions of the supreme goddess of fortune, Srimati Radharani. Because all of them are just like Krishna expands himself in different forms in order to perform different pastimes, in order to please the devotees who have different desires to see him in different forms, in different ways, in different moods. So similarly, the internal energy expands to be with him wherever he goes. So Srimati Subhadra is the internal energy of the Lord. She's an expansion of the supreme goddess of fortune. Therefore, she sometimes is called the goddess of fortune. Hare Krishna.
And from yesterday, from Sudevi Dasi, she says, Hari Bol, We shall attain firm conviction from listening to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic dancing in front of Lord Sri Jagannath's cart. I am clapping along.
Yes, this is the perfection of life. Prabhupada's given us the perfection of life. Lord Chaitanya came to deliver all of us fallen souls and give us this experience of being able to be pleased just by clapping along when Lord Chaitanya is dancing in front of the Rath cart. This is the perfection. I know I have to stop because I have things that I have to do. I have had three calls during the reading that I have to tend to. So I thank you very much. It's not always possible, Rati, to hear all of the things, and sometimes they weren't coming so much especially during these special pastimes. So please forgive us if sometimes we may miss one or two or whatever. And I also have a limited time. I can't go on and on and on. Of course, I could if I was in complete ecstatic love of God, but Hare Krishna, we're doing our best. At least we're doing it persistently every day. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same pastimes, same nectar. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.